Ooh, good pivot. This is a jump, so watch it.
How do I get him?
Huh? Oh, you jump it.
Well, I jump it. Okay, then we're gonna go for the jump.
No, don't. Wow! What?
I think a big failure, or I guess not a failure, because I feel like, okay, my definition of failure is when you give up on something that you truly want to do. Anything before that is just a fall, and then you can get back up. And this goes for everything. But in this situation, this was a literal fall. My dad is now riding electric unicycles. He pulls out of the driveway at top speed and hits the gravel and just lays out. I don't think I actually caught this one on camera, but I wish I did, because I just want to watch it back, because it was traumatizing to me in my head. But when I watched it, like when I saw it, and I was so worried about him, because I'm just like, oh my God, my dad, he just turned 60. Oh, I didn't mention that in the last video. Yeah, so my dad just turned 60 years old, and he decided, now I want to try riding electric unicycles. Now, to me, that is admirable. And it is awesome. It's like the coolest thing in the world, because I can just tell people every time we're riding around and people see him, they're like, oh yeah, I can't ride one of those things. I'm too old for that now. And my dad's like, I'm 60. And they're like, exactly. Yeah, you have no excuse. Stop making excuses. Okay, actually, you know what? Let's switch it to this for a second. The excuse of time. Okay, I don't get it. Like, people love to make excuses for themselves as to why they can't do things that they want to do, which I guess falls on the line of failure, right? But this is preemptive. Like, this is before you've actually failed. You've given up on something that you potentially might like. People do this all the time, and they make so many excuses for it. Oh, I'm not strong enough. I'm not brave enough. I'm not this and that, right? Like there's so many excuses, and some of them are true reasons, right? Like, I can't do that because I have an injury, right? Like, I'm not, or I have bad knees, therefore I can't do this type of sport. That makes perfect sense to me. Although I suppose you will find somebody out there that will still do that thing. But in these situations, it's usually age, right? And it's not that they're unfit. And it's more just that they have disqualified themselves before even taking the first step. And that is kind of what my dad was doing to a degree. I think he had the interest. The bug was there because me and my brother were talking about it all the time. So he had the interest, but he just hadn't had that push or anything that would push him to do it. And I think the whole, having time on his hands to just try and do things that he hadn't done before with the virus hitting, gave him that excuse that he needed to be like, you know what, let me say yes this time. And he did. So anyways, so my dad pulls out of the driveway, turns off, and falls immediately. Now, this is the first of many falls. And this scared me, honestly. Like, I worried about him. I worried a lot. And my mom also worried about him. Because my husband, he's on this wheel, and he's flying around and flying all off the thing. I get it, Mom. I do. I really do. Trust me. But I'm still not going to stop him, all right? It's not going to happen. We're going to continue flying around corners and wiping out. And that's just how it's going to be. And you're going to have to deal with that. I apologize. I shouldn't have gone that far. But the one thing that I really, really admire about my dad is the fact that he does get up. Now, these falls did scare him. And this actually was, I found out, tied into another thing. And this is what I mean about, like, this bonding thing, right? Is that, like, so my whole life, obviously, my dad and my mom, but my dad, we have this bond, right? And I'm lucky to have it, because I know a lot of people don't really even have a connection with their father. Their fathers have passed, their fathers have left, things like that. But, like, I've always had a bond with my dad. And one of the major things was just that he would teach me things, right? Like, my dad and my mom helped me learn how to ride a bike. My dad would always take us on bike rides to all these different places. We do all these different sports and things together, and he was always the one that was teaching me. Now, suddenly, I have the chance to teach him something. Even though I'm an adult, is such a surreal feeling to teach your father and feel that well of pride when he overcomes an obstacle or gets over something or gets through something. It's such a surreal feeling to feel that for your own parent, because they're the ones that have always, that's their job. They give you they give you things, they teach you things, and they feel the pride, right? And you feel the accomplishment and also the happiness of gaining that admiration from your parent. But in this sense, my dad was trying out something new that I understood, and he was the one that was making me proud with the things he was accomplishing. And oh my God, has he done that multiple times.
All right. Godspeed. All right, you got this. Nice control around the corner. Okay. All right, and is he going for the right or the left? Nice. All right. Nice control. All right. He's feeling it. Sitting on his heels a little bit, and he's going. He's ready for it. Boom. There we go. And he went past me without Derek taking my foot off.
But this is admiration of not the fall itself, but the fact that he was able to get up from it. He was very, very, very much afraid of riding on gravel and loose sand, because his experience with riding was usually on a road bike, to which he would, he wasn't scared of riding through dirt, but he understood the consequences of riding and turning and doing anything aggressive when on loose sand or gravel with a road bike with those small tires, right? He would still ride through it at speed, but he was cautious. Now on the wheel, he didn't truly understand the dynamics of it yet, so when he would hit it, he would then go and do a bunch of swervy stuff. And it was so funny to me, because he'd be riding on the road smooth, like just smooth sailing, carving, doing all this and that. I'm like, ooh, look at this. It's butter. As soon as he would hit, I don't know why my voice went like that. As soon as he would hit the gravel, off-road of any sort, his arms were flying everywhere. It reminded me of actually my first week of riding, which was absolutely hilarious. And so as his son, I had to clown him, but his arms would go flying everywhere. And I'm like, what is that? What are you doing? And he would just come off for no reason. And that's when I realized, this is like one of those old sayings, this is mind over matter. Although his mind was actually taking complete control and dictating to the rest of his body that, hey, you're going to fall, you're not stable, you have no control. And he was listening to this, and he was losing control. And it was the most interesting thing to see him do this, because his skill on the road dictated that he could handle this off-road terrain with no problem. I would ride down behind him, and I would watch as he would just lose control off-road, and it was so interesting. Now, fast forward, I realized that the way to teach my dad is to put him on something way too hard for his skill level, so that when he goes back to the thing that was making him struggle, it was easier. And so I'm like, all right, we're going to go ride some real rocks. So we rode on some real crazy terrain, and the man, he killed it. He did as best as he could. Oh, fun fact. He was always thinking this is an easy thing. Oh yeah, you're just standing up and you have to do nothing. Listen, just because something's not cardio doesn't mean that you're not working, okay? That's for all of you guys. Be like, you're just going to stand on some platforms, just go for it. Listen, if you've only ridden on the road, don't even talk to me right now, okay? Don't even talk to me. So we do this. We do a bunch of crazy harder terrain, and then I take him back to the trails. This man is flooring it. He's riding trails faster than I have ever ridden them. I think one of the things too that we actually ended up doing is that we rode a whole trail in the dark at night, and he hit it. I think he was going 25 to 30 kilometers. And by the way, this is on a 16S. Those of you guys that don't know anything about the wheels, they have different sizes and different weights, and the wheel sizes are different too. Depending on the size of your wheel and the width of your wheel, it can withstand or handle different types of terrain differently. Now the 16S is a smaller wheel, which is a 16-inch wheel, and it is about 2 inches wide is the wheel width. And so it is squirrely, especially when you start going faster. And off-road is not really the most confidence inspiring wheel, But my dad was flooring it, like I'm talking full send in the middle of the night, visibility low, so he couldn't see that these obstacles were there to scare him. He couldn't see them in time, so he just launched it through. And it was the funniest thing he said to me right before we went on this trail was, if I come off, I come off, and just gone. I was like, hold on. I was like, and he was just gone. And it was so interesting because it really was just, it just proved to me in that moment that all of the falls, all of the stuff, all of his arm waving, all of that fear was truly because his mind was telling him that he couldn't do it. But when he couldn't truly see the obstacles ahead of him, and he had a little bit of experience with harder terrain, stuff that he will at least mentally consider to be harder because it looked harder in the daytime when he saw it, all of a sudden riding this trail at night when all the obstacles weren't there, he just was able to just go with the complete confidence of a seasoned rider, which was not me because I was barely keeping up with the man. But it was crazy to see, crazy to experience, but it also took me back to my own riding experience, and I realized, yeah, I did that too. Like when I was riding at night in the city and there was all these blinding lights and the road terrain was crazy, I just prepared for the worst and rode as hard as I possibly could. I would bend my knees. I prepared for just horrible road conditions that I possibly couldn't see, because sometimes you hit a bump or a dip and you just go whoa, and you just it just scares the soul out of you. But you do it right. You handle it and you make where you need to go without fear, because you don't have time for fear because there's cars behind you. So I just thought about that, and I saw myself in that moment, and I realized, wow, this is, I mean, maybe this is just part of being in the family. Maybe this is just what happens when you, like, maybe this is just how everybody's minds work. I'm not even sure. I mean, you guys can tell me. Is this how your mind works? I don't know. Anyways, this was just another little talkity talk about my rides, and I think this format is gonna work. I hope this works. I really do. If you like the video, like and subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be doing more like stories like this because I think that they're way more fun. I like them way more fun. Yeah.